Do you have a paranormal story you want to share on Night Dreams Talk Radio? You could be a guest. Email us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Good evening or morning, depending on your time zone. From the Pacific to the Atlantic to you worldwide. Get yourself a cup of Java and find a comfy, easy chair. And get ready for Gary and his guest on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark. And now, here's Gary.
And here I am, and I need to get a new golf club. I tell you, I've hit the wall so many times when it just flies out of my hand when I come back on after that little intro to the show. Big shout out to a friend of mine, Earl Grey. We're playing some of his music tonight for bumper music. I tell you what, he plays music really great on the guitar. Besides that, he writes music and he sings. And the truckers out there that listen to the show just love his music. Now we're back with Tom Whitmore. Now, Timothy Cullen, I can tell the last time he was on, he was stressed. Because you got to realize, I mean, this has been going on every time he comes on the show, that there's static. It's only on key words when we talk about key things this happens to. Again, he went out and bought a new cell phone, a military-grade one, thinking, okay, this solves the problem. He made sure it worked. No problems talking to anybody. Well, guess what? That had all kinds of problems as soon as we talked about his implant. His phone line, he had a new phone installed. The same thing. It worked fine till he comes on the show and we start talking about, Dr. Roger Lear, the implant removal, and what he saw, him and his wife, that day in his vehicle. And then all of a sudden, there's static to the point you could almost, end the conversation. What do you think is going on?
Well, there are several possibilities, Gary. Now, we all started out, us UFO types, he started out thinking in terms of ET, extraterrestrials, being involved in these alleged abductions. And if you listen to Rick Doty, former AFOSI person, he says that he was briefed into a program and shown films of the Roswell recovery. And this is all about extraterrestrials visiting the Earth. Now, we hear these stories of people's phones being tapped and being surveilled and all of this. And there's a school of thought that these alleged abductions are a result of artificial interference by government operatives. And so a couple of the people that are advocating this, one is Stephen Greer, who believes that these negative abductions are created by government groups or government operatives to make people think that the ETs are evil. And then there is also Jack Brewer, who has written a book called The Greys Are Framed, or The Greys Have Been Framed, and he has a blog, and he advocates and implies that MK Ultra, the infamous CIA program, never really stopped, and that they've been developing these electronic interference techniques over the years, and that they can induce people hearing voices in their head, they can induce hallucinations, and then possibly induce these perceptions of being abducted. Now, on the ET side, I found it extremely interesting. There's an author by the name of Derek Tyler. I don't know if you've ever had him on your show.
No, I have not.
He has stated that, he's an abductee, but he stated that these MyLab incidents where abductees report that military people show up during these abductions, that what they're doing is the aliens abduct the subject, and the subject that's been abducted, that person's psychic abilities are enhanced for a period of time, for several hours. And that the reason why the military people show up, they actually re-abduct the person, and then they somehow dovetail on this person's psychic capabilities. And they use it for remote viewing or whatever. And I found this to be an extremely interesting assertion. So we're faced with this distinct possibility, as I see it, Gary. We know that UFOs can be hard craft. They can be physical craft. Now, they've been reported to materialize and dematerialize and so on and so forth. But we have at one end these physical craft and apparently physical beings. But at the other end, if we draw a line, and create an axis, at the other end, we have these parapsychological phenomena. We know that abductees report telepathy, and there are other parapsychological phenomena associated with this, such as orbs and precognition and so on and so forth. So all I can tell you is this is extremely complex, and there's reason to believe that possibly there are government groups and government operatives that are somehow involved in this, and at a minimum, they're trying to track what's going on. And in worst case, they may even be creating some of these problems.
So in other words, that maybe some of these abductions are not being done by ET, but it could be done by our own military for some reason.
Yeah, and the reasons are obscure. Now, Stephen Greer claims that they're doing it so that people will believe that the ETs are negative, that they're evil. Now, I don't know what constructive is accomplished that way, but maybe more military spending, maybe more government control. I don't know, but I agree with you. I just feel that it's extremely confusing that for citizens such as ourselves who are trying to get at the truth and try to get a better understanding, that with all of the information and misinformation and disinformation and confusion that's coming out of DOD and all of the sighting reports and the abduction reports and problems like your friend is having, with his phone being tapped or being electronically interfered with, that we're left with a very confusing situation here.
Well, you're right. For every little bit of soft disclosure, there's something, it comes out to make that disclosure sound like it wasn't really a disclosure. My friend who's no longer with us, Art Bell, did not believe in, UFOs and aliens at all. To one night, he was on his back deck with his wife, Ramona, and he called me that night. And he was scared to even go, he wasn't going to even bring it up on the air. And I said, hey, go for it. It totally convinced him that there was something out there. And, it's strange. I've had people on my show that has worked with the DOD for quite a few years. And they said what he told me is really bad is if you got somebody who's being monitored by the DOD, all you have to do is talk to them, and now you're on a list. So they're monitoring you. And sometimes I wonder, like some of these people who are talking about their disclosure, Timothy Cullen, that had his implant removed by the late Dr. Roger Lear. Something was removed out of him. Something was compounded, the material that could have not been compounded on Earth, that was removed. He went on national, TV with the late Dr. Roger Greer, and they talked about it. That's all it would take. Now he was, on that list. So when he goes on to a show, which he doesn't do very much anymore, he kind of avoids going on shows anymore. But when he comes on mine, I got a funny feeling he's targeted. I don't think it's being targeted by ETs. I just think it's being targeted by some government agency that doesn't want him to talk. Because as James and me talked about off air numerous times, Timothy, you can tell he's stressed. It has affected him emotionally. And he wants to say, I know him. He before he came on my show, he goes, I have a lot more to say. But after the phone, scrambles and does all this stuff, it was even hard to even do an interview because it affects you emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I'm sure that it does. I'm sure that it does. I mean, the so-called abduction experience would be stressful in and of itself. And, the Free organization, Ray Hernandez, has pointed out that a lot of these abductions start out negative for the recipients, but they actually turn positive later as they get more used to it, and apparently more rapport develops between the abductee and the aliens.
Well, people change as they get older. Whitney has been on my show. He's wrote a new book about, that he feels that these ETs are trying to communicate with abductees. And I don't know. I got a funny feeling people want answers. When they don't get the answers, that's when I think how can I say it? They start not imagining things, but they're trying to put things together and they can't. And that is a scary thing. I do feel that people are being abducted because where are these people are vanishing? They're going somewhere. Now, some of these cases, like when we go like with Terry Lovelace, what he said he saw when he was naked inside that UFO, holding his clothes, not being able to move his body, but only being able to move his eyes, the screaming of people in pain, not screaming of being scared. And when that craft took off, he was released for some reason. Now, he feels he has an implant in his leg, and something shows up on x-rays and MIR. But, he was released and his friend was released. But he points out, there was humans on that UFO when it took off, and they weren't returned.
Yeah, that's frightening, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, it's affected him so much since the mid-'70s. He has to go to bed at night with a gun next to his bed and a flashlight because he's scared of being abducted again.
I don't know if that'll do him any good, really. But
I don't think so.
I guess you have to do something. You have to try to do something.
Well, maybe it's emotional support. That's better than nothing. But can you imagine, Tom, somebody being abducted, or if you were abducted, and, again, some people claim that, they got cured of cancer. Well, you know what? When they were experimenting with the people, maybe accidentally, they fixed the guy's or woman's health issue when they were done with them. Or, I don't know. I don't understand why they would keep abducting people after another for years. And we're talking centuries. This has been going on. This has not been a thing. It's only been going on for the last 5 years or 10 or 20 or 30 years. This has been ongoing. So I don't understand, like, the mutilations. Why do they have to mutilate people or cattle and take, all this certain things, drain them of blood? And what would be the